Good morning. So 2 years ago, I attended a conference, and at that conference, I attended Open Space, and there I got to program with a technical coach. I never heard of the term technical coach before, and I started to, learn more about it. And now that's my goal, is to be a technical coach, and I've done some with my team now. I learned a lot of new things about Sama coaching, ensemble or mob programming, and learning hours. And I brought that knowledge to my team. They were struggling to learn TDD and pair programming and just deliver high quality software. And over the next year, we met once a week for 2 hours every week. And they went from an average team to a high performing team, delivering multiple times a week and delivering high quality software. So I'd like to share with you about learning hours and how you can bring this to your team as well. So I'm Stephen Diamante. I'm a technical consultant at King & based in Chicago. So I'm fully remote. And I love extreme programming. I started my career on an extreme programming team. And I learned the best ways to deliver high quality software to delight the customers, and also technical practices like test-driven development, refactoring, clean code, continuous integration and deployment. And I'm really passionate about that. And since then, I've been learning more about it and teaching others about the technical excellence that I think we should do a lot more of. I'm the organizer of Raleigh Software Craftsmanship Community that I started last year. And we've been doing a lot of online meetups recently, but we're going to be meeting in person. So I'd love for any of you in the area to come out and join us. And also, when I'm not coding, we're playing guitar and singing. And I also have a daily meditation practice. So learning hours starts with learning goals. We're going to start with the outcome in mind and really pick some small skill that we want to improve on. And so the learning goals for this session is to talk about deliberate practice and the value that it has for your career, and also to learn more about learning hours, how they're structured, and why they'll be beneficial to bring to your teams. And we'll also learn some ways just to cultivate learning in your teams and organizations. So generally, a learning hour is just a dedicated time where we learn as a team together. Some companies have like 10% time, but this is not individual learning, this is team learning. So let's just look at the current state of our profession. To say it bluntly, we are an industry of amateurs. We have no engineering code of conduct, a handbook of things to deliver software correctly and right and in a good way. And the agile movement and also the craftsmanship movement has done a great job of bringing these kind of good practices to light. But I think we still have some more work to do. We have lots of junior developers coming in every year, and we need to take the time to mentor them, show them, to get out of those bad habits and learn good practices. And unfortunately, we don't have the time to teach them. We're always chasing deadlines and prioritizing speed over quality. And I really think that mindset needs to change, and I hope that the learning hours that I'll talk to you about shortly will help with that. And learning is usually reserved for outside of working hours, right? And the learning hours that I'm talking about is on the schedule and dedicated. All of this is to address all the technical debt that is on a lot of teams. 86% of organizations in the last 12 months have said that they suffer from a lot of technical debt that slows them down from innovating, decreases their productivity, they miss deadlines, and they have a lot of outages. And according to a survey taken last year, that was one of the 3 biggest obstacles for agile transformations and digital transformations, along with budget constraints and the lack of technical knowledge. So I think learning hours will help eliminate all of those obstacles. Just need to dedicate some time to learning these things. So let's look at other professions and how they approach practice. So professional athletes, they practice almost every day. If they're not, playing a game that day, and what do? They practice drills, like small focus activities to try to increase a particular skill, and it's focused, and they want to improve and challenge themselves. They also have a lot of coaches, tons of coaches, professional sports, and they provide them with feedback, correct them, give them tips on how to get better. And doctors, surgeons, they have simulation training. They prepare for emergency situations. They have to practice a lot. In a life or death scenario, you want your doctor to be prepared and not like freaking out, right? We need to practice so that these things become automatic. And how about naval pilots? They have an intense training. They study all the time, and even when they get out after a year or so, they still, every 6 months, have to test on different aircrafts. They have to know all the different machinery that's there, all the different controls, and they have an expert level pilot right behind them, critiquing and correcting everything that they do. They have a saying that in high stress situations, that you fall back to your most basic training. They train those emergency situations as well. When things are going wrong, you want to be able to automatically know what to do. And all these professions have something in common, and that is deliberate practice. We'll talk more about that. Let's talk about how learning hours is structured. So it's a safe environment where teams can learn together. And when I introduce this, we talk about kindness, respect, trust, and it's a safe place where we can make mistakes, because making mistakes leads to learning. They're typically an hour long. Some teams will do this every day. My team does it once a week for 2 hours, and we found this to be pretty beneficial to us. But I mean, really, the more you can, get away with. If you think about it, an hour a week is only 5% of your week. So you can start it like that, or say, how about 10%? That's just 2 hours a week. And it's going to increase your quality, and it's going to help your products. So the 4C learning model is in every learning hour. So we start with the connect. This is when the learners take what they already know, and we see how we can connect it to the new information. So we'll dive more into these. The concept is just what we are actually learning. And the concrete is where we spend most of our time. This is where we practice. So for coding, we code together. We use mob programming or pair programming, and we take the concept that we just learned and we do it right away. And then we always save time at the end for a retrospective and to wrap things up and get an opportunity to internalize what we've all learned. Okay, so I'm actually I'm trying to find my mouse here. All right, there it is. All right, so I'd like to show you the Semi coaching site with all the learning hours. This is open source. This is things that you can bring to your team. You don't have to prepare much. There's a lot of different topics here: test design, test-driven development, refactoring. There's even DevOps on here. So if we look at refactoring and look at primitive obsession, for example, we see the 4 C's here and the different time frames that you should spend on it. And it helps the facilitator be able to prepare something to show the team. All right, so let's talk about the Connect. So here's some of the Connect activities. Fill in the blanks, true or false. You can do a web hunt. Maybe you want to learn about code smells, and everybody take 5 to 10 minutes, split off into pairs, and go research about code smells, and then come back and we'll discuss it as a group. Right? That's one example of what one of these Connect activities would look like. So they're meant to be engaging activities, and we learn from each other. We take what we already know and we connect it to the new concept that we're trying to learn. And it gets everybody in the mode of learning. And it also helps to build some team morale and foster connections between learners. So let's do a little Connect activity here. You can just shout out the answers. I'm going to read this statement, and you can just fill in the blanks. But I will give you some words to choose from. So as seasoned developers, we understand the importance of deliberate practice in honing our skills. Deliberate practice involves breaking down complex tasks into smaller, manageable components and focusing on improving specific aspects. This approach requires intense focus and continuous feedback and a commitment to pushing beyond our comfort zones. By engaging in deliberate practice, we can accelerate our learning and elevate our expertise in a focused and systematic manner. All right, thank you for participating. All right, so let's talk more about deliberate practice and how it relates to learning hours. So this is the concept part. This is where the facilitator would take maybe 10 or 15 minutes explaining the concept that we're learning for that session. So with deliberate practice, you really want to take something small and focus. You don't want to be learning multiple things at once, right? You want to pick something, just one thing, and just focus on that. So if you take something like refactoring, there's a lot there, right? We won't do a whole learning hour on refactoring because there's a lot to go into. But we could break it down and talk about renaming, which is one refactoring you could do. And we will maybe introduce a concept like naming as a process, an iterative naming process. And then in the concrete part of the session, we would practice renaming over and over again. So, and then when we get back to our code base and our real work, we start looking at the names and we're like, wow, these should be renamed, right? So, yeah, and so we want to have it be challenging, but not too challenging. We also don't want it to be too easy either when we're talking about deliberate practice, because we want to be learning. The focus here is learning. Feedback comes in many forms in a learning hour. It comes from the facilitator, giving some suggestions to the learners, and also the learners working together on their own. The people on the team that are, possibly making some different decisions, and people talk about it, and we grow in that way. And also iteration. And that we take small steps and we build upon each learning hour, and we kind of add more challenging things as it goes along. And also repetition. We mostly will work with coding katas, not production code, because we want to get out of the delivery mindset that we need some kind of outcome. We're here to practice, right? So we use coding katas, small exercises where we can kind of do them over and over again, maybe add different constraints, and really make those things become automatic. So when we do get back to our code, that we start to see these things and are able to improve our designs and make our code more maintainable. So let's look at the difference between learning and performance. So little Timmy here is learning to ride his bike. He's got his training wheels on. He's learning how the handlebars move the front wheel, and he's seeing how he pedals, and he's learning a lot, right? So this is the learning. Like he doesn't have to perform yet because he's got his training wheels on. Once his training wheels come off, then he enters performance. This is the execution of a skill in a specific context. So I play guitar. I've been playing guitar for over probably 20 years. This photo was taken 10 years ago. I probably haven't improved much since this photo has been taken because I don't really take the time to practice. I play songs. I still play guitar like all the time, but I don't deliberately practice. When we're learning in learning hours, it's about sharpening the saw, right? Improving our skills so we can execute better when it does come time to perform. So the third C is concrete. This is when we actually practice. So I'm going to talk about what we actually learn in the learning hours. So we learn some technical practices listed above, TDD, refactoring, and others. And we also learn how to work together, how to pair better, how to use ensemble or mob programming to collaborate better. We take the time to slow down and learn shortcuts, learn our tools, our IDs, how they can help us do our work better. And we also learn different approaches to problem solving, and those techniques can be transferred over to our real work. And some things that we don't really focus on too much is frameworks, libraries, and languages. These kinds of things can be learned in training courses, tutorials, but the really hard things to learn, I don't know if you've ever taken a course in TDD or something, but you have to actually do it. It's a habit, it's a whole mindset change. So it's great just to do it over and over again and with other people that know how to do it. That's how I learned anyways. So I'm remote, so if you're in the office, this might be a little bit different. Maybe you get some whiteboards out, but this is a mirror board that I set up for my team. Don't worry about reading any of this. It's kind of small. I just want to give you a general idea of how I set it up. Other technical coaches will set it up differently, but this is where we will do all those 4 C's that I'm talking about. So I want to talk a little bit more about the mob programming or ensemble programming. So in ensemble programming, there's different roles. So if I were the navigator and there was a typist right here, I would be dictating to them what I would like them to do to solve the problem. And I'm dictating with intention. And why this works in a group setting is because I'm saying it out loud, everybody else around hears it. So if you've heard of strong style pair programming, it comes from that idea. So for an idea to go from my head into the computer, it needs to go through someone else's fingers. So this is an effective way. So I'm going to update here. Let's move that out of the way. All right. But yes, that's an effective way to learn. So we get to learn from our failures and successes as a group, and everybody gets a chance to do and see, because after I'm the navigator, then after 5 to 10 minutes, we'll rotate and somebody else will take on that role. And so everybody gets a chance to do it and also learn from other people doing it as well. And also there's continuous feedback from the people on the team or the coach or whoever's leading the session. And there's also working together. We get to really, people come to the table with different skills, right? So we're able to learn from each other, and it really fosters a sense of community. I've seen it really boost the morale of teams. People are excited. On the team I'm on right now, we have a lot of meetings, but like this is the meeting that everybody looks forward to, and we just generally have fun. So this is Emily Bache, and she has started a YouTube channel. She's a technical coach, and she also wrote a book about Simon coaching and introduced learning hours. So she has these things called guided learning hours, and I'm going to show you what that's all about. She's going to talk about that.
I provide training materials so you can host technical coaching sessions with your team. A guided learning hour is a bit like a normal video training course, teaching skills like TDD and refactoring through slides, demos, and exercises. But it's as interactive as I can make it. I'm using the best available brain-friendly teaching techniques to make it more fun and effective. Plus, I want you to get your whole team to do it with you. Learning is social, and knowledge has a context. Based on my many years of experience, I provide training materials so you can host these sessions. I want it to be possible for you to be the hero, the change agent, the technical coach. At the same time as 95% continuing to do your normal developer job. Why don't you try a guided learning hour from my playlist and let me know how it goes? We really have to do something about the amount of technical debt in the world.
Right, so that's something that you can, without much experience of leading these, you can have a technical coach right there in the video. Pause the video, do an activity with your team, and come back and show, explain the concept more.
I provide training materials so you can host technical.
All right, so how can you bring this to your teams? So I'd say first, start with the long-term benefits, delivering higher quality software, increased collaboration and innovation, continuous improvement. We're learning, we're taking time out of our week, yes, but we are getting better, and it's starting to show in the code that we deliver. Slack time, learning hours is a good use of Slack time. Slack comes from the book Slack, which basically is saying that high-performing organizations don't utilize everybody 100%. They leave some slack for creativity, experimentation, innovation, and some of the best ideas that you've seen from big companies come from this time that they take to innovate. I think kind of a softball collaborative activity that you can do is what's not to like about this code. So you take a code base, probably not your own, because you're going to critique it to shreds. And so as a team, you'll talk about what you don't like about it. It's a good way to start talking about coding standards, what your preferences are, things like that. It really just gets the team talking. And you can also just frame it as an experiment. I've found that usually goes well, and just say, let's do it for a month or two, and give people an out. If we don't like it after a month, we'll stop, okay? And if you don't think you're in a situation to really introduce something like this, maybe you need to take some small steps to get there. So I'd like to provide you some different things where you can start to introduce that culture of learning. First, just whatever you're learning, start sharing it with your teams. It's articles, books, some cool conference talks that you saw. And also, if you're doing any coding katas, invite somebody with you, share the knowledge, practice together. And along with learning hours, my team does a weekly tech retro as well. This is more focused on our actual work and talking about the technical improvements that we can make from those. And tech talks, basically lightning talks where different developers can take turns just sharing knowledge with the team. So how can you start with learning hours today? Add it to the weekly schedule, after you've got some buy-in from your team. You really got to put on the schedule and commit to it. Same day, same time. And a good first session is to just do a lean coffee where you introduce a bunch of topics. Everybody will introduce topics and prioritize them. And I feel like this is a good way to start getting some information about what we want to learn as a team. And then actually going to that site that I showed, the Simon Coaching site, and picking a learning hour. And you can make a board and kind of set it up, take the text from there and set it up. In a collaborative environment, I prefer Miro, but there's others out there. And also leveraging the guided learning hours as well. It's a great way to get started. If you're interested in more about technical coaching and learning that, Emily has a book here, and it's a great resource to learn more about this. So I'd like to hear what you found, what you learned today. Why are learning hours beneficial? If you could just turn to somebody next to you and tell them in 1 or 2 words, if somebody is next to you, why they're beneficial.
Focus, dedicated focus.
All right. Okay, so here are some of the words that some others have given to these. I think the big win here is that we grow as a team, we're learning together, and we get to improve our skills individually and collectively. All right, so last thing, this is part of the conclusion, right? So I want to make sure that you've learned something, and when you learn something, you need to reinforce it. So let's do some active recall. So we'll do some true or false, and I'll read the statement when you say true or false. Learning hours are dedicated time slots allocated within a team schedule, specifically for learning and skill development activities. True. Learning hours are primarily focused on formal training sessions led by external instructors or trainers. False. Deliberate practice involves mindlessly repeating the same task over and over without any focus or intention. False. And deliberate practice involves identifying specific areas for improvement and designing practice activities that target those areas. True. All right, so here are some more resources. You have the site that I showed earlier, Emily's YouTube channel. The Mod Mentality Show is a great resource if you want to dig more into mod programming and ensemble working. And the last two are my blog and YouTube channel, Path to Programming, where I talk a lot about technical excellence and this kind of stuff. So I don't really have any time to take questions, but I'm going to be here all day, so come and find me, and I'd love to talk about how I could help you introduce learning hours to your team. Thank you very much.